This is our lesson number 122. In this lesson we will see the classification of the Spanish verbs. Spanish verbs can be classified into three big groups. The first one is the verbs that end in ar. This is the biggest group of verbs, and we can say that most of the verbs that end in ar, almost all of them, are regular. There are very few irregular verbs in this group of verbs. Some examples with regular verbs that end in ar are comprar, that means to buy, mirar, to look, hablar, to speak, cambiar, to change. An example with an irregular verb that ends in ar is estar, that means to have or to be. The verb estar can mean to be when we are referring to an impermanent state. For example, if we say I am happy, we say estoy contento. We use the verb estar because happy or sad or raining, all those are impermanent states that can change, and we use the verb estar. However, for permanent states, we use the verb ser. For example, I am John. I am a man. This is a table. This is a window. All these permanent situations or states that cannot change, in Spanish we use the verb ser, which belongs to the next group of verbs. The second group of verbs are those that end in er. For example, these are regular verbs that end in er. Comer, to eat. Beber, to drink. Or meter, to put in. We also have irregular verbs that end in er, as for example, ser, to be, tener, to have, haber, to have or to be, and ver, to see. The verb ser, as we mentioned before, is used for permanent situations or states, while estar is for impermanent. Tener literally means to have. Haber means to have in the sense of when it is used as an auxiliary verb. And the verb ver means to see, while the verb mirar means to look. Our third group of verbs is those verbs that end in ir. And this group of verbs is the one that has more irregular verbs. Examples with regular verbs that end in ir are vivir, that means to live, sacudir, to shake, decidir, to decide, and pulir, that means to polish. And an example with irregular verbs that end in ir, mentir, to lie, and morir, that means to die. So these are the three groups of verbs in Spanish. In the following lessons, I will show you how these regular verbs are conjugated. I will show you the rule for each one of these three groups of verbs for you to learn how to conjugate most of the verbs in Spanish in the past, in the present, and in the future, and also in the imperative.